All right, today we're diving into a market that is just packed with opportunity, selling your digital products in Romania. But, and this is a big but, it's a place where you've absolutely got to get the legal stuff right from the get-go. So, let's break down exactly what you need to know.
So, you're a creator, right? Or maybe a SaaS founder, and you're looking at Romania. That's awesome. In the next few minutes, we're going to lay out the legal map to help you make it happen.
And this is really the core of it, right? You've got this booming digital economy on one side, but on the other, you've got some pretty strict legal rules that are all lined up with the EU. The trick to unlocking all that potential? It's knowing how to play by those rules.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We've split this into 5 key parts. We'll kick things off with the opportunity. Then we'll jump into the must-knows. E-commerce rules, getting a handle on VAT, Romania's e-invoicing system, and finally, how to make sure you're selling securely and legally.
First things first, let's talk about the sheer potential here. I mean, Romania's digital market is just a fantastic place for growth, especially if you're in SaaS, you're creating content, or you're in the e-learning game.
And you know, the demand is all over the map, in a good way. We're talking huge popularity for everything from ebooks and online courses to really sophisticated software and streaming services. This is not some tiny niche market. It's broad and it's hungry for top-notch digital goods.
Okay, so the opportunity is crystal clear. Now, let's switch gears and talk about the legal stuff, the framework you absolutely have to understand to succeed.
Think of these 5 points as your starting lineup. Seriously, before you even think about making your first sale, you need a plan for every single one. It's all about getting your VAT sorted out, making sure your products are classified correctly for taxes, and keeping super detailed records. These are the non-negotiables for sure.
All right, now for the big one, value-added tax, or VAT. I know, it can sound complicated, but don't worry. We're going to break it down into the most important numbers and ideas you really need to get.
Okay, take a look at this number. Roughly 300,000 Romanian leu. Burn this into your brain, because it's the first key figure that's going to shape your obligations, but only if your business is actually based in Romania.
So, what's that number all about? Well, once your annual sales inside Romania cross that line, you're legally required to register for VAT. Simple as that. If you stay below it, you're in the clear. But what if your business isn't based in Romania?
And this is where things get really, really important. For businesses that are not based in Romania, but are selling to Romanian customers, there is no threshold, 0. You have to register for VAT from your very first sale. This is a big one, and it catches so many international sellers by surprise.
Now, if you're selling to customers all across the EU, the one-stop shop, or OSS, is going to be your best friend. Seriously. Instead of the nightmare of registering for VAT in every single EU country you sell in, the OSS system lets you handle everything through one single registration. It's a massive, massive time saver.
And that brings us to our second key number to remember, 10,000 euros.
Now, this number applies to your total B2C digital sales across the entire European Union. The moment you cross that 10,000 euro annual threshold, using the OSS portal for your VAT reporting becomes mandatory. It's the system that makes compliance so much easier once you start to scale.
Okay, next up is something pretty unique to Romania that you absolutely cannot ignore. It's their mandatory electronic invoicing system, and it's called e-Factura.
And listen, this isn't just a suggestion, it's the law. e-Factura is the national portal where all your invoices have to be submitted. It started out for B2B and business-to-government sales, but now it's expanding to cover a lot of B2C transactions too.
The process itself is pretty straightforward, but you have to be precise. First, you issue your invoice. Then, you've got to format it into a specific XML file. After that, you apply a qualified digital signature. And finally, you submit it through the official portal. You can't skip a single step for that invoice to be legally valid.
All right, in our last section, we're going to talk about protecting 2 of your most important assets, your digital products, and of course, the trust you build with your customers. This is all about selling securely and legally.
If you're running a subscription business, think of this as your guide to building trust and staying compliant. Transparency is everything, right? Your customers need to know exactly what the terms are, the pricing, and how they can cancel. And you absolutely have to respect their rights, like the cooling off period for refunds, which is mandated by EU law.
When you're picking a payment gateway, you got to have your priorities straight. Number 1, it must be GDPR compliant. That's to protect user data. It also needs strong anti-money laundering protocols.
And honestly, to save yourself a world of headaches, a gateway that can automate VAT calculation is an absolute game changer for staying on top of your taxes.
So how do you actually protect your content from being pirated? Well, you've got a few options. Legally registering your copyright? Super effective and actually pretty simple. For more active protection, you can look into digital watermarking, or for the highest level of security, content encryption. The right choice really just depends on your product and what resources you have. And one last, crucial reminder for you. All of your legal documents, we're talking contracts, licensing agreements, all of it, you have to keep them for at least 10 years. Please don't overlook this. It's basically your legal shield down the line.
You know, when you boil it all down, it really comes back to this one core idea. Succeeding in Romania isn't just about having an amazing product. It's about balancing that innovation with a totally rock-solid, compliant, legal foundation.
So, there you have it. We've laid out the roadmap from that and e-invoicing all the way to consumer rights. The path to doing this legally and correctly is clear. So the only question left is your product ready to take on this incredible market?